everything that you do. You've absolutely changed my life for the positive, and I just want to thank you. I was 29-year-old beta, living at home with my mom, and just was living in fear and doubt, and I couldn't hold down a job. And then I found you, and I started listening. I started just being more at peace, and I forgave my mom, and I forgave my father. And it's like right after that, everything just changed in my life, and I was able to get a good job, and I moved out, and I live on my own now, and everything has just changed. And I just want to say thank you, and I appreciate you for spreading that message. It really is a positive message.
Amazing. That's good, man. I want people to know God loves us in ways that there are no words to express, because you have nothing to compare it to, right? Stay with the silent prayer. You haven't seen anything yet. It gets better. Isn't he Mexican?
Colombian.
He calls himself American.
What is this?
Anchor Baby.
And in this corner, it's the American Anchor Baby.
Daddy's home.
That's an offensive term. People find that hurtful.
You mean it's not politically correct? Excuse me. I'll use the word anchor baby. You know, he's an anchor baby in Canada.
Tell him we still rolling with Trump, too.
Anchor baby, the whole thing sounds horrific. You're just making it sound like immigrants are these horrific, greedy people.
Ustedes pueden aceptar mi negocio o aceptar las consecuencias. Plata o plomo.
So you would be considered white, in my opinion.
You the blackest one in this room.
I think so.
And what happened was his mama got pregnant on the other side of the border, and then a few hours before, just before it was time for him to pop out, she jumped across the border and let him fall on America's soil. So he became the anchor baby. They don't call him the anchor baby for nothing. Amazing.
We like this anchor baby, right?
Hello, I'm the American Anchor Baby, and this is my show. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate everyone that's rolling in from Joel's chat. Great shows today. How y'all doing? Much appreciated. About to get going here. I got war on my mind. Want to give you a little update, little talk here on certain things. Amazing Trump moment, I think. Incredible Trump moments, clips, wisdom, insight. But I will be borrowing, obviously. I'll be borrowing stolen valor from insightful, wise people. I'll hopefully be a bridge, a medium for it. If at least something like that. A bridge or medium for that. That is speaking highly. How you doing, folks? I see y'all rolling in. 888-775-3773. You want to jump on the line, speak with the Anchor Baby. In fact, I have one name who's on hold right now. Hopefully the call screener can hear me out there. We love Rick. Rick, I do want to talk to you. But just, it looks like you have a comment from Joel's show. Ask him if he's willing to hang on a bit, let me talk a bit, and if he has a different question for the Anchor Baby, Rick, appreciate that. Because that sounds like it was for Joel's show. Great episode. Like I said, 888-775-3773. Glizzy's home. I see you on the chat. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I want to speak about the region. The region a little bit here. The region's on fire. The region's been on fire for a bit here. And you know a little bit about this saga. It's the war. Hamas, October 7th. It was terrorism. A lot of terrorism lately. We'll be talking about it all. So terrorism, October 7th, you know what went down. And there's been a number of military moves since then. They've been pushing them down the north side of Gaza, pushing them towards Egypt. They're at the last line here, Rafah, the city that's on the edge there between Gaza and Egypt. They say 1.5 million or so Palestinians are there. Last line, a lot of talk about aid. What's the world to do? What's going to happen? They're talking about ceasefires, the United Nations. And so that's kind of what's been going on, right? Rafah. So we'll get into all that. Let me see if there's anything I'm missing, though. Great. 888-775-3773. So where are we? I mean, we could just get into it. Look, Rafah. See if we can pull it up here. Because they're fighting. There's war. You know what's worse than Google? You know what's even less usable than Google? Yahoo. We'll have to do this'll do. This'll have to do. Okay. This'll have to do. You see the red? That's Rafah, okay? Wish I could get maybe Yahoo. See, look at this. What is this? Yahoo. Obviously, I want to see the map. All the way at the edge, right up against Egypt. And the story, the story is, since then, the Egyptians were saying, we're not going to take them. Then they started setting up tents, and it's still kind of up in the air. Even the U.S. putting in their pump the brakes calls towards Israel. Kamala Harris coming out with tough talk from Kamala Harris, the Vice President of the United States. U.S. is ruling out nothing if Israel invades Rafah, Kamala Harris says. As a warning, as a warning to Israel is what this is. It's from The Guardian. Senior U.S. Democrats on Sunday increased pressure on Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to abandon a planned offensive into southern Gaza city of Rafah, where more than 1 million Palestinians are sheltering. 2 days after a similar call by the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken was rejected by the Israeli leader, Vice President Kamala Harris said that the Joe Biden White House was ruling out nothing in terms of consequences if Netanyahu moves ahead with the assault. So they're saying, calm it down. Harris said that Washington had been very clear in our terms of our perspective on whether or not that should happen. Any major military operation in Rafah would be a huge mistake. This week, I have studied the maps. There's nowhere for these folks to go. And we're looking at about 1.5 million people in Rafah who are there because they were told to go there. I mean, where else do they have to go, right? It's the nature of the military operation. It's the intended effect and consequences of what's going on here. I mean, October 7th happened, right? There's nowhere for these folks to go. Harris declined to say if she, like the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, believed that Netanyahu was an obstacle to peace. Well, she said, we've been very clear that far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. I find it quite interesting how a number of people in American politics that we know over the years, Chuck Schumer, that and how they, and some of them Jewish, some of them not, but what strikes me is their dislike of Bibi, of Benjamin Netanyahu. I've noticed something interesting there. They dislike, they may, it's like wherever they fall, you know, it's a U.S. politician or otherwise, wherever they may fall, wherever they may fall on the issue with Israel or whatever, and their support of it, they don't like Bibi. Even American, if you've noticed this, American, there's something in the American Jewish people. There's a schism there, And there's many who dislike the right wing, Bibi. They dislike his toughness. And that's something kind of interesting, might be important in a bit here. So they don't like Bibi. They're telling her to pump the brakes. Harris declined to, we've been very clear that Israel and the Israeli people and Palestinians are entitled to an equal amount of security and dignity. I mean, those are pretty things to say, I'm sure. I'm sure those are very pretty things to say. I wonder how much people mean it. And even on its face as a statement that I can react to, is it even really true? People, when you speak about what people deserve or were entitled to, what do you know about that? Think about the nature of just a fundamental thing like fighting and defense. Take out any. I'm not even speaking about anything. I'm not speaking about it. There's two states. They talk about. I won't name the states. Take that out of the equation here. When two sides fight, there's an aggressor, a defender, if you will. The nature of violence here. In that conversation, in that fight, in that battle, there is one side believes the other does not deserve equal amount of security and dignity, and they feel absolutely justified in that. And if you were part of that, you were part of that group. If you were part in that fight somehow, in some shape, way, or form, whether you wanted to or not, a lot of Israelis that just are part of the war now, right? Simply by being Israeli. Wherever you fall there, you're going to say, you're going to most likely kind of adopt that as well. That there are people who are not. So on its face, everyone deserves equal security and dignity. Now, I just wonder what Americans would say, what American politicians would say should they have been attacked in a similar way. Her remarks came as political figures from progressive elements of the Democratic political establishment added their voices to the growing opposition to the humanitarian costs of Israel's 5-month military campaign on the Palestinian territory. So, The Guardian is just remarking on something we've remarked on this show. It's that radical left wing of the Democratic Party, a growing voice, if you will, calling it a genocide and all sorts of things, right? Siding with the Palestinians. And so that's what's going on. I mean, you have like AOC, New York Congresswoman. There you go, right here. This is from The Guardian. AOC accused the Jewish state of committing genocide against the Palestinians and called on the U.S. to suspend military aid to Israel. So that's a fair thing to talk about. This growing radicalism. And what people are capitulating to, you see Harris and Biden's moves, can be kind of explained somewhat. Okay, air and ground campaign that started in October 7th, killing more than 1,100 and taking hostages. Talking about the casualties here. The offensive has killed more than 30,000 people, on the Palestinian side. The Guardian, putting side by side these numbers of casualties. And it's fair, it's a news, I guess, it's journalism, but I have to point out the how do I put this? You know how the devil tries to interpret the Bible? The devil does that with the news. You know what I mean? I think he talks to us all the same way. You put these numbers side by side this way. A layman doesn't really understand or know. You don't have most people are shallow, right? So they'll see 30,000 up against 1,000. Be like, So let me continue here on the news. Really not making any points here, but I want to get to something quite interesting. It's Trump and such a mature, kind of sober point on a lot of this. I think you'll enjoy. So you got the radicals, the radical wing in the Democrats, Here's the latest. It's the ceasefire that's going on with the UN Security Council. And the United Nations is, I don't see them as anything, as this positive peacekeeping force in the world, okay? I don't see them like that at all. So I'm a little suspect. They got this thing going on, though. It's been going on for a bit here. They've been trying to get this ceasefire resolution going on, okay? What does this mean? The UN gets together and they say, hey, y'all got to stop. It has a significance in that, well, the nations involved are making assertions and promises, as well as it stands to maybe speak on how the global community feels about something. Communist words. The UN Security Council adopted its first resolution calling for a ceasefire in Gaza until the end of the Islamic holy month of Ramadan. You know, the holy month, I don't know much about Ramadan. I forget. I grew up with so many. I went to school with so many. They call him brown, okay? I know brown is Mexican to you. Ramadan started March 10th. March 10th. Fasting, prayer, reflection. Many are saying, what? There's no way that Muslims would carry out a terrorist attack during Ramadan. That's just crazy. That's impossible. Something I heard. I don't know about that. It's not really a holy world. Holy month of Ramadan. Okay, where were we? The UN is calling for this. Calls for this release of all hostages taken by Hamas. The U.S. abstained from voting, marking the first time it hasn't blocked a UN resolution, because this has gone up to a vote for a couple times. U.S. Saying no the first three. This time, they're just abstained from voting. So they're not saying no. And they stopped short. The U.S. said it stopped short of voting in favor of this latest resolution because this latest resolution didn't condemn Hamas. It simply just asked for them to release the hostages, but they didn't go far enough in condemning them. So the U.S. is just no vote on this one. And they are saying this is significant, though. That some are saying this is significant for Hamas, for example. It emboldens them. There's reports that they are refusing to agree to a release of hostages here. Emboldened by this, unwilling to work with Israel. So where that stands is Hamas has these hostages, and they're saying, okay, we'll release them, but first the ceasefire. Israel's saying, no, release them first. And so that's the battle. That's the fight. U.S., like I said, abstaining from a vote here. Benjamin Netanyahu canceling a high-level delegation planned visit to Washington after the U.S. decided not to use its veto power on Monday. So, yeah, Benjamin's like that, canceling a meeting, and also getting out of these, he's left these, I want to speak accurately here. Forgive me. This is from Breitbart. And it's the Benjamin Netanyahu's government here. They're leaving these hostage talks with Hamas for that very reason, because Hamas is digging in. They're saying, we don't want to release them until we get the ceasefire. Ceasefire first. Israel pulled its leading negotiators out of hostage talks in Doha, Qatar, on Tuesday after Hamas toughened its demands in response to a United Nations Security Council resolution that called for an unconditional ceasefire. That's from Breitbart there. So they're fighting. They want the hostages. They want the ceasefires. The Israeli government, acting truly in a self, what's it called? Like this is what I would do if I was Bibi, is what I'm trying to say. This is the seemingly correct military move here for Israel. If your goal is to eradicate this Hamas threat and all this, okay? Apologies. You following so far? That's what's going on. So now the latest is the ceasefire. And the U.S. staying out of the vote. Many are saying many things about it. Benjamin getting out of the whole thing. We're going to, you know what, we're not going to negotiate with the terrorists. We're not doing it. Hamas praised the Security Council and said it was prepared to discuss the exchange of Israeli hostages for Palestinian convicts, but only after a ceasefire. So that's the news so far. It seems to just be kind of like increasing. It's a train that's no one's stopping it, and no one seems to be around that can stop it. That has the the maturity and dare I say even love to and foresight to stop this train. You know, there's people talk about wars and all this, and World War III. And let's be real, we don't know the future. You can't get crazy about these kinds of things. That being said, you know what I noticed a lot? I don't really see a lot of people kind of freaking out like that, saying, oh, World War III's coming. There's a lot of there's a lot of, how should I put this? It seems almost like naivety. Because what I'm trying to say is that although we can't pretend like we know the future and get into insane theories, we can still talk about today. And what I see today is, think about it, I don't see anything stopping all this hate and anger. There's nothing stopping it. I don't see anything stopping this train. I'm seeing all sorts. I'm seeing everybody fall into almost historical traps. We're talking, they say history repeats itself. But I see people falling into these like kind of same traps of hatred. We all know about the whites hating the blacks and all this, but whites hating Jews, Jews hating whites, a lot of the same mistakes. What I'm trying to describe here is that it really does seem like the beginnings of recent wars. Egos, man against man. You follow me here a little bit? So I just don't see anything stopping the train. So this leads me to this, okay? Let me get to this. Trump and Israel. Trump was interviewed by, it seems like a Jewish magazine here. I think it's in Israel, some media company over there. I don't know anything about Israel Hayom in a video interview here. And they asked him about the war and a number of things. And I found a couple of moments here fascinating. Hopefully, let's see if we can pull it up here, because it's quite interesting. I found his commentary sobering. Trump to Israel Hayom, only a fool would have not acted like Israel on October 7th. So, 45th president in an exclusive interview here. Now, let me see if I can work this out. How do I want to do this? Yeah, I think I want to play the first, so Mr. President, 2 minutes straight up of this opening here when he's talking, and they ask him, do you support this war? That's this war that's happening right now, this offensive and all this. Do you support it? They ask him. So I think we'll get into that. I see your calls coming in, 888-775-3773. Let's see what's going on over here. BB, strong guy. Let me let Trump talk a little bit here, and let's see if we can get to what we're talking about.
Thank you for having the time for this interview, and congratulations for clinching the Republican nomination.
Thank you.
Israelis remember the historic decision you took as a president for the Jewish state. Now we are under a war. And our first question is whether you support Israel's goal to completely destroy Hamas?
Okay, so let me just explain why it's so sad. If I were president, you would have never been attacked because Iran was broke. They had no money. China couldn't buy oil from them because otherwise China wouldn't be able to deal with the United States. I said to China, I said to many nations, 47 nations, I spoke to many of them personally, if you buy oil from Iran, you will not do any business in the United States, and we're going to tariff your products. Every single one of them agreed. I didn't lose one, not one. And Iran did almost no oil business. You know that. Nobody would buy oil because of me. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for Hezbollah. They had no money for anybody. And now they're sitting with $221 billion in cash, and they control Iraq, which has $300 billion in cash. It's like a subsidiary. Whether you like it or not, it's like a subsidiary because stupidly the United States went in and blew everything up. You know, you had two countries that were sort of equal in power, and one of them got blown up by the United States, and now Iran has a big advantage in the Middle East over a lot of other countries. When I saw October 7th, it was one of the saddest things I've ever seen because there was no reason for it. They would have never, ever done that for two reasons. Number one, they were broke, and number two, I was the president. They would have never done that because they knew there would have been very big consequences. All right, that being said, you have to finish up your war. You have to finish it up. You got to get it done. And I'm sure you'll do that. And we got to get to peace. You can't have this going on. And I will say Israel has to be very careful because you're losing a lot of the world. You're losing a lot of support. But you have to finish up. You have to get the job done. And you have to get on to peace. You have to get on to a normal life for Israel and for everybody else.
So if you re-elect in a few months, once again.
Beautiful. Okay, so let me just move this around here. So Trump talking to Israel Hayom here about the war, and in my opinion, speaking in a very just kind of a definitely peace-oriented, wise, kind of sober way. Let me try and explain a little bit here. You know, he speaks on this the wisdom here on just the preventative measures of just strength here. A strong president, it's just clear. You know, Israel has an ally, has a big ally, U.S. And it's just no question that, you know, a strong president backing that up would have meant a lot. $221 billion. You know, it can't be ignored, the significance of that, how these little policy things that happen maybe in America, they're not quite little. And you hear about money being released and sanctions and all this, and they fight about it in Congress, and you realize that it has a number attached to it, $221 billion that wasn't there. You know, you see what I'm saying here? They're not these significant things, obviously, pointing out the obvious. Wisdom with Iraq here, too. He's mentioned it before, and he's gotten a lot of attention from the establishment for speaking in this way, speaking about Iraq and the mistake of the U.S. and that whole war. But also this, you know, October 7th, he's saying, get it done. He says all that, but he speaks on something that's happening right now. There is a support that's being lost with Israel. You got even Biden, Harris, with their pump the brakes recently. So he's saying something that's quite wise, and I appreciate Trump because he's kind of like, you know, it almost makes me appreciate Bibi in a way, and I say almost because I just don't know much about all that. I appreciate Bibi being strong in the world stage here. Think about it. I don't think it's real easy right now to maybe point out like genocides and look at all these Palestinians they're killing. And I don't know about all that. Just don't know where to stand on. I don't want to make a decision on that. I'm kind of paying attention to stuff over here, and you know, hopefully myself. I'm trying to myself as well. So I don't even want to make a decision on that. Why? There's people that want me to. It's like, why would you want me to? Are they committing a genocide or not? Hamas attacked them and all that. You got to understand, Trump is wherever you stand on the whole thing, he's essentially right with what he's saying. You got to get it done. Get to peace. I like what he says too. You got to finish it up, because you got to bring it back, make it normal. You got to bring back normalcy for Israel and everybody else. You know, he makes it quite clear how the U.S. is a big part in all this, and it's quite a fascinating thing here. You could check it out yourself. And all these fake people in the media, they're taking it as him saying, oh, it's a ceasefire. They're already taking sides with it. You got these liberals.
Donald Trump gave an interview.
Confused Trump accidentally calls for Israel ceasefire. People are so shallow they can only see it as when someone speaks, they gotta put him in a box and say that they're all this or all that. So with Trump is the same thing, right? So I like the strength there, the wisdom on bringing peace. Yes, sometimes it's a nasty thing, and I don't think he is someone that is hasn't thought about this in a deep way. You know, he's said before that Palestinians deserve a far better life. You know, he's right about that. You know, let me see. I even have the clip here.
I was saddened by the fate of the Palestinian people. They deserve a far better life. They deserve the chance to achieve their extraordinary potential. Palestinians have been trapped in a cycle of terrorism, poverty, and violence, exploited by those seeking to use them as pawns to advance terrorism and extremism.
You know, I believe he's sincere in that, and so I don't think he is glib about the whole situation. Okay. I'm trying to point out some of the wisdom he showed in this, but you know, it's a whole like 12-minute thing. You'll have to check it out. Israel Hayom. There was another moment though that was interesting. And this is a shorter clip. Here's Trump in that same interview, and he's talking about. Let's watch here where he says something about American politics that's quite interesting. You know, a lot of people are getting banned. You hear this a lot. A lot of people getting banned. And he says something here that's quite interesting about that. Well, not about getting banned. Something sort of like that. Let's just watch.
Rise of anti-Semitic
on the rise of anti-Semitism. That's right. Let's watch this.
We saw a major rise of anti-Semitic attacks in America. What are you going to do about it?
Well, that's because you fought back. And when you fought back, and I think Israel made a very big mistake, and I see it, and I saw it every night, and I wanted to call them and say, don't do it. It would say the...
What the? Am I getting attacked?
Since October.
What's going on? You don't want me to show the clip? I don't know what just happened. It just refreshed there. Let's just play it again.
What are you going to do about it?
Well, that's because you fought back. And when you fought back, and I think Israel made a very big mistake, and I see it, and I saw it every night, and I wanted to call them and say, don't do it. It would say the Israeli Defense Ministry or a tag would be on these photos and shots, I mean, moving shots of bombs being dropped into buildings in Gaza. And I said, ooh, that's a terrible portrait. It's a very bad picture for the world. The world is seeing this.
Yeah, but Hamas terrorists are in those buildings, so how can we fight them?
You go and do what you have to do, but you don't do that. And I think that's one of the reasons that there's been a lot of kickback. If people didn't see that, they didn't have to see that. Every single night I'd watch, and every single one of those. And I think Israel wanted to show that it's, tough, but sometimes you shouldn't be doing that.
Senator Chuck Schumer just a few weeks ago.
Maybe I'm not even speaking clearly, but hopefully you can see what I maybe sort of saw, and maybe should have waited to have better words to describe. I like the strength in that. You got to understand, people are dumb, and they get all. You think right now, this fight right now, that everyone is, there's this war going on over there. And there's actual people fighting it. Then there's the politicians. Then there's the actual Jews over there voting about it and talking about it and all that. And then there's people online and people over here. And you really think that people are talking about the facts and the world? No, it's egos and people take sides and emotions, and that's the majority of the conversation I see. You know, when we're not seeing like, I don't know, like a debate about issues. If we're not watching a debate or something, it's just emotional people online. Don't point at me. Don't zoom the camera on me. You know, talking about things they don't know. And you think that people, when they see these images of the war, you think that people are thinking clearly. They're not. I gotta say, they're not in the same situation. I feel like it just seems to me like Trump is really speaking about it clearly. It's peace. He's thinking about what if this was America? What if he was president of Israel? He's thinking about it like that. He also sees. This is my opinion, that he doesn't just, he sees the Palestinians as people. He sees them as people. I personally believe that. So there's one more interesting part of this clip. Hopefully you understand where I'm coming from here. One more interesting part here. Let's get to it, because I see calls coming in. I appreciate it. 888-775-3773. We'll get right to them. Just a little patience.
Interference by the administration. Tell us to do that. Tell us not to do that. What do you think about what Schumer said about the Biden administration support or maybe not support so much to Israel?
I think it's a terrible thing to do, because it takes all of your momentum away, because they watch government, they watch the people, what's going on, and it shows great division in the United States. You have to have support, and you don't have the support you used to have. You know, you used to have 15 years ago, Israel had the strongest lobby. You couldn't say, if you were a politician, you couldn't say anything bad about Israel. It would be like the end of your political career.
What?
Today,
someone get him. Someone cancel Trump.
It's almost the opposite. I've never seen. You have AOC plus 3. You have these lunatics, frankly. But you have AOC plus 3 plus plenty of others. And all they do is talk badly about Israel. And they hate Israel. And they hate the Jewish people. And they are open about it. You take a look at some of these, Tlaib, what she says, the way she talks, and they truly hate the Jewish people. And 15 years ago, that would have been unthinkable to be doing that. So Israel has to get better with the promotional and with the public relations, because right now they're really, they're being hurt very badly, I think, in a public relations sense.
I mean, that's just absolutely correct. Whatever you want to say and think about, oh, that means he's a shill, or that means this about Trump. That is just expert, like general knowledge. What I mean by general, I mean like he's like a war general. He's like a total war general. He sees all the moving parts. He's like, hey, this is what I would do. He's just absolutely correct about that. I appreciate that. About the public relations, about the necessity for that. 99% of arms I was reading on anti-war this morning for Israel comes from the U.S. and Germany. He's just absolutely correct about what he said. So anyways, what else was it? Yeah. 15 years ago, he says, you would not be able to say, he said, about supporting all this. You would get, what do you say? Your career ended and all that. And, there's people, what I find on, what I like about that moment is when you're a person who, how do I put this? When you're a person who, here, look, I don't know Trump, fine. But I personally believe if there's someone who does it, who has love and has no anger, maybe, I think it could very well be Trump. I think it's, so, on that, when you're someone like that, you can speak about things in such a things that are normal, because that was such a normal statement. Do you see what I'm trying to say here? All I'm trying to say is that men who don't have anger speak about, you can't say to that guy, hey, what, I'm sure people might be able to try, but you can't say to Trump, hey, you don't you know that's anti-Semitism to say that there is such a thing like you're getting your career ruined over speaking out over blah, blah, blah? Look at him, his veins bulging out of his neck, the way he says that. Look at that anti-Semite. You can't say that about Trump. And so when you're someone who is calm and speaks like in this way, do you see what I'm trying to say here? You can say normal things like this that are absolutely not controversial to say at all, in my opinion. It seems to be like that. Anyways, what the heck am I rambling about? Let's get a caller here. Let's anchor the anchor baby's thoughts here. Let's anchor the storm. Talk to another person, another person here. Let me bounce off another person here. Bring some normalcy for all of you. Bring some normalcy for Israel, for the rest of the world like Trump, and also my chat and my viewers. I got Third Rail Omar out of New York. Appreciate your call, sir. How you doing?
Hey, what's up, buddy? How you doing? How you feeling? Everything good?
All is well. It's nice to have you back, sir. We got Third Rail Omar. Very cool.
Yeah, Anchor, I see you all over the place when it comes to the Palestinian Israeli.
Yeah, help me out here. I have a person to talk to. Maybe we can nail it down a little bit. When I got a wall and nobody to talk to, maybe it gets a little strange.
It is strange to be confused about a simple matter. There's no complicity. There's an occupation, and there's an occupier.
Who?
There's well, you have a country that is under occupation called Palestine by the Zionist entity called Israel. Israel.
What do you mean by that?
Choices to the Palestinians. Well,
help me out as a. Well,
Israel,
keeping it simple here. How are they in your view occupied? Go ahead. My bad.
Well, under international law, there's a two-state solution. Gaza, the West Bank, and East Jerusalem is recognized as Palestinian homeland. That should be the future of a Palestinian state.
Is that a desire? Is that a desire or a reality?
No, this is law. This is it's a fact.
But is let me ask you this, like, is that something you and maybe others desire, that there be these two states that are delineated and there's peace? Or is that a reality, or is that something that you guys want?
This is recognized by the United States government, not what I want. The American policy recognizes the 1967 borders where Israel stays out of the West Bank, Gaza, and East Jerusalem, which are the future homelands to the Palestinians. The United States recognizes that. The United States policy goes toward that. But the problem is...
Was there an update at all?
What do you mean an update?
You know, because you're talking about 1967, right? And I know what happened then, but a lot has happened since then too, right?
It doesn't matter. It is a fact as of today.
Why doesn't it matter? Why does it? Because like Abraham Accords, Golan, like there's a lot that's happened. No,
but you got to understand the Middle East. The Abraham Accord has nothing to do with the Palestinians. That's why Gaza happened. Because Israel is making peace with everybody else except the Palestinians that they have issue with. But about the Palestinian state, as of today, the United States sees these territories as Palestinian territories and other territories of a future Palestinian state.
Can we slow down just a little bit? You just said that the Abraham Accords caused what's going on right now, right? Because the U.S. was trying to make deals with all these other nations and not Palestine. Is that what you said?
Yes, Israel was making.
But the Abraham Accords is, well, help me understand here. Isn't the Abraham Accords, doesn't that involve U.S.? Wasn't that really?
Well, congratulations. It's just a standby. The United States has no skin.
Purely ceremonial. I find that hard to believe. I find that hard to believe when would you disagree with me that, you know, the fact that Israel has U.S. as an ally is a huge bargaining chip. That's just an absolute truth.
Okay.
That's just an absolute truth, no? So I find it quite hard to believe that U.S.'s involvement in the Abraham Accords is something just purely ceremonial.
The United States is involved not directly because it has nothing to benefit, but
Okay, I may not understand that. I leave that as an I don't know. It sounds hard to believe that it's purely ceremonial. But can I ask you what I wanted to slow?
The United States has relationship with these countries already. So what is it going to gain?
Can I ask you what I wanted to slow down for? Because you said that Israel is making deals with all these people and not Palestine, and that's what caused this. That's what caused this.
October. That's what October.
But your previous.
October 7.
But you previously had said.
But
you previously had said that that the 1967 stuff is proof that America wants two states. So which one is it? Do they not want to make deals with the Palestinians, or do they? Because although you say it's ceremonial, the U.S. was involved with the Abraham Accords.
Okay, you have to understand these are two different issues you're talking about. You're conflating them. The Abrahamic issues were done between different states in the Persian Gulf. It has nothing to do with anything with the Palestinian issue. That's what caused the October 7th. Because Israel is going to case with Saudi Arabia, and they're going to leave the Palestinian issue hanging and keep them in a state of jail-like life under the occupation of Israel. That was a wake-up call telling the world that we exist, we're here, and you have to make peace with us.
What was the wake-up call? Can you repeat that? My bad. What was the wake-up call?
The October 7th was done on purposely just to stop the further peacemaking with other countries. And the Palestinians want to negotiate a future instead of being ignored as a nothing. They were ignoring them.
Okay, well, thank you for the info. You know, I was sincerely asking to understand it, and essentially, I don't even disagree with that take. That that there's some that say that what's it called, that this Abraham Accords, that, like you said, that not making peace with Palestine was a catalyst is a possible motivation here for a group like Hamas, for example.
Because they were not talking with their issue. Imagine 7 million people under occupation and nobody's talking to them. And you're talking to everybody else in the neighborhood. That's like you making peace with all the neighbors, except the neighbor that's next to you. You have issue with that fencing of the yard issue that you're not settling it there. So as a crazy neighbor, I'm going to go out and kick all the fences and create an international event or warlike event.
Well, okay, so I appreciate the info where there's some facts here on Abraham.
But I want to ask you a question.
And I'll let you ask your question. I just want to do a recap a little for myself and maybe for my own mind and maybe for my viewers. Okay. But I'm following you. Appreciate the info on the Abraham Accords and all that. I think there's some stuff that's opinion. There's some stuff that's opinion. I think, like occupation. This talk of occupation, and you say now you bring up 1967, and you say that there's legal basis. There's all this legal basis and historical basis, and they fought for it and they had a conversation about it. Nick, don't you understand? This is all set in stone. It's already done. It's all these haters who are just breaking the rules. And I just find that a little bit of a ridiculous conclusion. I think it kind of ignores what's going on right now. Was there not an attack on October 7th? This is not me saying I'm this full-throated support for Israel. I'm just trying to be a clear person here. What do you think about that?
I want to ask you a question.
Sure.
Do you think?
Wait, hold on. Wait, I feel like I should be enforcing a rule. My ego's telling me that you should answer my question first.
Oh, it's a question because you're going on and on.
I am. Okay, October 7th. You don't you find it a little ridiculous that your conclusion is, there's all these laws and precedents like 1967, Nick, yet there's attacks going on right now. There's October 7th and all that, and you're going to tell me that what? You're going to tell me what? Israel just has to follow these rules and laws? Says who?
So what's the solution? I mean, if you have
there might be another solution, but to say.
Listen
okay.
to me. Listen to me.
Ask me your question.
I'm from the region. I'm from the region. Okay, I know everything. I've been there all over the place.
We got one from the region. An expert from the region.
Okay,
thank you.
Between the river and the sea, you see, there's a problem. The Zionist project is failing right now, and you can see by the cruelty and viciousness inside Gaza that it's very vicious because it's failed to provide two things for the Jews: a safe homeland. It's not safe. Israel is not safe. A majority Jewish state. It's not a majority. Because between the river and the sea, you have 7.3 million Palestinians. And between the river and the sea, we have 7.3 million Jews. So if Israel goes for a one-state solution, it will eventually lose its majority because Palestinians are having more babies. If it continues as it is an apartheid state because it's treating Palestinians as second-hand citizen or second-class citizen. Second-class citizen who have no rights, they are under military rules. There's 10,000 Palestinians.
But here's what I don't understand. I don't know all the facts and I don't know all the stuff, man. And I've here talking in this conversation. Oh, I'm sorry, I cut you off. Maybe I'll let you finish.
Go ahead. No.
I was saying,
sure.
man, look, I've taken your call before as well. I've seen you on the Hake Report as well, and I feel like time and time I leave space for, Israel can commit. It's possible for Israel to do something wrong. I leave space for all that. Look, but I haven't heard you even once in this call, because you're saying all this stuff about, well, if they do one state, then they're not going to be a majority or some. I don't understand that. But if you do it the other way, well, then they're just going to be occupying and terrorizing the Palestinians. And I haven't heard you even at one point at all in the call talk about, well, the Palestinians, they hate the Jews and they have problems too. And so that's how we get to where we are.
No, it's not hating the Jews. You see, this is the wrong thing to go about it. They don't hate people because these Jews. Hold on.
Yeah.
They are against the subjugation and occupation of their land by the Israelis. You got to look at them as Israelis. Because if we
right, says you.
Jews, then we're conflating. You can't say Jews because there's a lot of Jews. There's American Jews. There's
Israeli.
American
Okay,
Jews.
Israel. But it says you. You say they're occupied. And why you say why again? Because, well, I don't want to speak for you, but it sounds like you're just because they don't accept. Because you're saying they're occupied because they don't accept 1967. They don't accept the two-state solution. All that.
It is America's foreign policy as of now. As of this minute, the United States recognizes these territories as Palestinian. America's policy. I mean, the government of the United States. But do you see what my only point is I'd be more inclined to listen and maybe hear out the conversation if it wasn't all this. Well, it sounds like you're just blaming them. It sounds like you're just blaming them. And this conversation with you, right? Maybe you can point to me where, I don't know, the Israeli people are blaming the Palestinians, but I'm talking about right now. How do you blame the victim? How could you blame the victim? You're occupying them.
Absolutely, you can always blame the victim. What do you mean?
Well, the victim has the right to fight back. Hamas is not a terrorist organization under international law.
Imagine if you were getting slandered, and you were getting lied about, and then you went and went crazy.
Slandered. What do you mean slandered?
Let's say this is a hypothetical. You're asking how can you blame the victim? How can you say that they did anything wrong? Well, I'm giving you a hypothetical. Imagine you were getting slandered on the media, and then you went and, I don't know, made up a lie about that person. See how you can blame the victim? Victim can be wrong, absolutely. The so-called victim can do something wrong. It doesn't stop you from doing something wrong.
I love you a lot, but you're not making any sense right. Forget about all this.
Tell me. Yeah, let's make it clear. What's unclear? Let's make it simple for me. What's your question?
You don't understand. There is a Palestinian state under occupation. This is the problem. You're not reading. You got to read into it. Go to Wikipedia.
I've done some reading. I've done some reading. It doesn't quite make it clear for me.
What I'm telling you is the Jewish state is occupying 7 million Palestinians and denying them their right to self-determination.
Right. I'm trying to have a sort of conversation about it with my very, very ignorant understanding of it. And I've asked you, and it sounds to me like you said, right, you say it's because they don't accept 1967, they don't accept the things, and I'm wondering, well, don't you think the conversation has continued a bit? Don't you think the conversation has gone elsewhere after maybe some terrorist strikes, maybe some, I don't know, Palestinians and Israeli people dead?
It's not terrorist.
So 1967 doesn't kind of matter? They're kind of fighting today? Or am I ignorant for thinking like that?
You are ignorant for thinking of it, because you're not listening to the whole idea. What I'm trying to tell you, Anka, I like you a lot, but
I appreciate that. I appreciate your answer. It was honest, and that's what I wanted. Thank you for that.
This is the confusion. Most Americans are confused because they don't read into the situation. Okay, let me explain.
Right, I can admit that I'm ignorant.
In 1948,
okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, folks.
The United States Palestine into two nations, one for the Jews, one for the Palestinians. The Palestinians said, no, this is our country. We're not going to share with anybody, okay? Then they, in 1967, they had a preemptive war where they took over this territory that is belonged to the Palestinians. Now, under international law, under United States foreign policy...
You're moving too fast. Can we go back to where you said, the Palestinians said, we don't want you here? So what happened then? Can you go back to there?
I went there in 1948. All of a sudden, a United Nations was created, and
Correct.
they told the Palestinians, listen, we're going to give 55% of your country to the Jews from Europe.
And they didn't want that.
Of course not. You know why?
And what
Because
right
the
did they
Jews
have to say that?
Because that's it. Hold on. You got to listen to me now, okay? Because the Jews only
Well, who owned it? Who owned that area at that time?
The Palestinians.
Wait,
the
why do you
Jews
say
only
that?
owned-
Why do you say that?
You're not letting me finish.
The British owned it.
No. They ruled it, but the people.
They ruled it and they
land.
owned it.
You don't own it. You don't own a country.
They ruled
You
it and
own
they
the
owned it
colonial-
because they fought with blood and they were the winners of a grand war that killed a lot of people.
Yeah, but they.
So they really had the right. This is how I see it. They really had the right to say, and I get it. Maybe
You don't have no right
could
to give
say
other
you could
people's
say it was
country.
wrong. Maybe I really don't know what to say there. But I'm just trying to. You see how I see the history play out. I see it play out
Imagine-
differently. Because you say the
Okay, hold on,
Palestinians,
hold on,
they
hold
had
on.
no right to tell. They
In
had no.
1948, the Jews only owned 6% of private property inside Palestine. Imagine somebody coming there and say, we're going to give you 55%. So what do you do with the people who own these farms, who own these houses, who own these villages, who lived there for thousands of years? What the Jews did was, they came from Europe. They were the terrorists, led by a terrorist organization called Iran, all these Jews.
That happened after.
They cleansed it. Huh?
That happened after, though.
Yeah, but this is what I'm trying to tell you. Why
Like
would
the
you
Jews
give
and
away your
the
home?
Jews and the Arabs did that after, and they were fighting amongst each other, and they kind of did it to the British as well. They bombed the British and all that.
What I'm telling you is that imagine, let's say the United States, was told to give 55% of its land to Mexico. Would you give it?
Right. Well, it might cause a lot of lasting.
Would you give it? Would you?
I don't know. No, probably not. Look, I'm just saying. I can understand that it would cause. You're not listening to me. I'm saying that I'm not. You're not listening because I'm saying that it's clear, and I'm conceding. I don't even think this is a concession. This is just a clear point that it's obvious that might cause some issues. Even though British mandated Palestine, even though the British, they owned it because they fought. Hold on. I understand that you disagree. I understand that you disagree with that word, but they won the war and that's what they decided to do, okay? And if you didn't like it, well, guess what? You could tell them, hey, you don't own it all you like, but that's what they did. And so that's what happened. And I can understand that may have caused issues and that people are still mad about it today. But you see, that's all I was trying to say, is that you were saying, well, Palestinians owned that area. Well, no, there was a big old war. There was a big old war, and the British decided this is how it went down, and that's how it went down.
Yeah, but I'm trying to tell you is that when people say, oh, why the Palestinians refuse? But they own the land. They own the property, private property. How are you going to give up your property and just give it to somebody?
I understand that's caused bad blood. I understand that has caused...
Not bad blood. It's called thievery.
Right. I understand that has caused lasting issues ever since. I understand that. Man, I appreciate Third Rail Omar. Man, is there anything else you want to ask me? Let's see if we can make something clear real quick before I let you go here.
Well, the idea, we get it. I'm going to ask you, why is it hard for you to see the murder of 32,000 people as not a genocide? Why are you having a hard time coming to that conclusion?
Because, like you keep saying, hey, Nick, if they came to take 55% of private property here in America, wouldn't you say something?
No, we're talking about the genocide.
Right. Didn't you ask me that? Didn't you ask me, Nick, what would I think if they came to take 55% of America?
No.
Did you not ask me that?
What I'm telling you is that...
Wait, Third Rail Omar, this is an amazing question. This is an amazing moment here. You asked me...
You're going back.
You asked me that, right?
We had.
Don't worry.
We was about to hang up.
Don't worry. We'll get there. You asked me that, right?
What asked you?
That, Nick, what would you think if they came to take 55% of your land?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just showing a little bit of that same compassion or understanding, or I don't know what you want to call it. But hey, imagine if we were attacked. Imagine if we had this unruly, for whatever reason, maybe reasons that are our own fault, But imagine if we had a populace of or a subset of a populace that's terroristic and hates us and wants to attack, right? What would we do? I'm showing that same compassion that you were asking me to show with the 55% question and all that. You see what I'm saying?
It's not making any sense. Listen to me.
Maybe I'm bumbling, but hopefully people understood me.
Why,
they were attacked, man.
Hold on. Please, Anchor. Please. What I'm saying, forget about all this. Stop confusing yourself with this conversation.
How am I confused?
Why are you having a hard time calling a genocide with 25,000 women and children have been killed deliberately by Israel? That is not a genocide. Why?
Is that true? I don't even know if that's true.
Well, look at the Secretary of State said it, of the United States said, the government of the United States
So an Israeli person was like, look at these women and children, and Israel collectively, they're like, let's kill these women and children.
Yes.
It's collateral. It could be collateral. It could be a combination. Like even that statement you're saying is loaded. That's why it's hard to talk to you. I'm trying to, even that statement is loaded, it feels. Because
I'm asking you why are you having a hard time?
I'm trying, and I already explained. I know it was maybe confusing to you. And this will be
you ran away to.
I didn't.
You ran away to something else. I want to ask you a question one more time.
No, you can't.
As a Christian.
No, you can't. We're out of time.
Why are you having? No, you can't. Christian guy.
Okay, you can ask one more question after I answer you, but then we're out of time. But listen, I wasn't running away. I was simply saying that you asked me why do I find it hard to see it as a genocide. I'm just saying that I leave space there before I go around calling it a genocide because they're dealing with this. They're dealing with this, this Hamas and all that. Imagine if we had something like that over here, and then people were like, "Hey, America, you guys are just genociders. You guys got to stop what you're doing." And meanwhile, we're just trying to protect ourselves. You see what I'm saying?
Don't put us in the same class.
I'm not saying it's the same. I'm not saying it's the exact same. I'm simply saying that's why I'm leaving space.
One more time. I'm going to ask you one more time.
No,
14,000.
You already asked me that question, man. We got to move on.
Because you're not answering the question. You're running away from the question.
No, you already asked me. You didn't like the answer. It's okay.
But you're not answering the question. You didn't answer it.
Thanks, Third Rail.
You're just talking all over the place. That's it.
I know, maybe I did, but I gave you a chance to, make it clear and ask me your question, and then I tried to answer. So I think we're done.
One more time.
Okay, go ahead.
Why are you having a hard time seeing that the murder of 12,000 children and 12,000 women is not a genocide?
I'm just leaving space, man, because I don't really know, and I don't know if you really know. But if you ask me about me, I'm leaving space because I don't really know. That's why. That's all.
All right. So you're claiming ignorance, right?
No, it's not. It's not a claim. It's the truth.
So you're ignorant?
Yeah, I am.
All right, man. Take care.
Yeah. That's not a bad thing.
I mean, you're all over the place. I think you need to educate yourself on certain issues.
All right, well,
we can talk about
I appreciate you calling in and attempting to educate me, man. I think maybe there was even a little tiny bit of education there.
All right, no problem, brother.
Call me again, sir.
All right, God bless.
888-775-3773. Let's rock these calls. I'm just trying to I'm just leaving space. Imagine if America got attacked in a certain way and people were like, nah, America, you're just trying to genocide. That doesn't mean I support everything Israel is doing. I'm just leaving space because I don't know. There's things I don't know. I appreciate the conversation. Darren, Texas, let's rock this. You're on the air. Amazing. How you doing, sir?
Is my call coming in clear?
Loud and clear.
All right. I just wanted to talk about, the little video that you showed of Trump. And
nice.
I think that also has something to do with the immigrants that's coming out here. A lot of people, they feel bad and they feel justified in feeling angry or whatever. Excuse me. But you have to think about, even if they are Christian and they're using the Jews and Palestinians as a way of justifying their anger, you have to remember that Jesus himself, he wept over Israel already, and he said that these things will happen. And I believe that Trump made a beautiful example of that by not going into their hell, but saying that you guys have a war to fight.
Yeah.
And America was just observing. And as when I was president, It was just observation, and the whole world could observe that nobody was going to do anything because I was president. But because I'm not president anymore, they took action, and because they took action, you have to take action, and you have a war to fight. Kind of reminds me of
Thank you for that. Please keep going.
Immigrants is coming in as well. So what?
I cut you off. Please keep going. You're saying what I wanted to say. Go ahead.
The illegal immigrants in Texas coming in through Texas, we don't know where these folks coming from, but I could tell you the truth. The Mexicans that were out here illegally, and even the Mexicans that came out here illegally, I work at Jack in the Box, and they don't want them folks out here. They said they're gonna come up here, they're gonna be lazy. I ran here illegally, and I got here safely, and I got me a job, and I'm telling you the truth.
Wow.
This is these folks are saying.
Yeah.
I'm telling you the truth. They don't want them here. And people on the outside looking in, they're thinking that, oh, we got to feel bad for these folks, and, we got to take that middle gate down because it's hurting those poor little Mexican and Venezuelan kids that's coming here. And all that. I remember yesterday I asked one of those, the little Mexican ladies that work in the kitchen. I said I work at Jack in the Box. And I asked, like, hey, how do you feel about these people coming in, like, raping people? There was, like, a little white girl who got raped in the street. And,
you just asked her like that?
Yeah, this is Texas. They don't care.
Okay.
I ended up asking them, and she ended up saying in her little broken English, she ended up saying, I don't care. She said they know what they know what they got to do when they come here. They got to get to work, and if they don't want to get to work, then, who cares? Like, it's like
that
in those
is amazing.
Countries, it's like everyone is for themselves, and they see America as freedom. And even the illegal immigrants that's coming to Texas are realizing how bad it's getting. But because this is not their country, this is the white man's country, and this is the black folks' country. Because it's our country, they're not going to say anything, and they're just looking over here watching. And it kind of reminds me, the little situation with Israel is kind of reminding me of what's going on here. They're trying to get Trump to make a decision and to make a claim that's going to destroy America even more, because like a mama, they want them to fall into their hell. But at the moment that Trump, acknowledged that it was their side, it was their war to fight, it almost seems as if it became clear to me that, America is different and we are an individual. I don't know, maybe I was just rambling on.
What the part of what you're saying, though, that I appreciated was just that's kind of what I saw too in that conversation. It was Trump being an individual, not being the pro-Israel guy or the guy who's going to be for the Palestinians, or he was Trump. He was America first as always, but I think he was sincere what he was saying. His support for Israel, for example, I think that's sincere as well. I don't think that's a mystery or controversial, or you know what I mean? So that's what I appreciated about that. And it is happening here, man. Still got you there, Darren?
Excuse me?
Still got you there, sir?
Yeah, I'm still here. I was just
right on, man. Well, appreciate that, man. Yeah. Anything else you want to say before we move the wheels here?
I have a question. When it comes to, because I remember when I first saw you on Jesse's show, you seem like very smart, and now I'm starting to see that you're starting to act like a black man on the inside, like hey, black on the inside, but white on the outside. It's like black. I was wondering, what helped you, because I noticed it, what helped you overcome, intellect and, over-rambling? Because I feel like that's a part of intellect.
I don't know if I'm not done with that. I've not overcome that. Do you watch my show? I'm mostly joking there. I'm playing around. It doesn't seem like I've overcome that. But you're saying that I seem less intellectual now?
Yes.
But it's funny, too, because it almost sounded like a criticism, but you're saying it's a compliment.
Yes.
And that's amazing. Thank you for that. It's funny how the mind works.
But it was a question.
Yeah, it was a question. I don't know what to tell you because I don't know if I've overcome the intellect. But, all this helps, man. All this just constantly watching, constantly just knowing that the mind is a crazy place. It's not even you. And just hearing the stories, hearing people fall into it, hearing the calls, and them dealing with that, not dealing with it, all that helps. All that helps because it's it's not something I can do anyways, right? So all that helps, all that just knowing that and paying attention, I think that's all part of working on it.
That's interesting.
You know what I mean? It's
And
just, it becomes your world. It becomes your world.
Yeah, I understand what you mean. And I do want to say that wise men don't seem wise in their own eyes, because wisdom is not you, but wisdom comes to you from God. And so the fact that you said that you don't feel that you overcame it, let me know that indeed you are overcoming it, and I'm not just seeing, random stuff, but I'm actually seeing light coming through you.
Nice.
I was honest when I said that. When I said that you don't seem as intellectual, but you seem more wise.
Nice, Darren. And in that very moment where you said that, I now suddenly believe I am overcoming it, and I've now undone all the work that was working on within me. That's a joke. Hey, Darren, I appreciate it. That's kind of an interesting way of thinking about the mind. Darren, call me again, sir.
Of course. I definitely will.
888-775-3773. Let me plow through this really fast. I'm sounding like, hey, my bad. Trump deportations, he brought up immigration. I was going to talk about it, and I know the calls. Look, be patient. I'm going to do this fast, but it's thematic, and I think the people listening will appreciate the breakup. It's interesting. Immigration, Trump saying he's going to do a big old deportation. Some seem to believe they know how it's going to go down. Interesting column here. And Los Angeles Times, I want to tell you a little bit real quick, and then about the Mexican president, his threats that he's going to just let them all through. Former President Trump is focused relentlessly on illegal immigration, writes LA Times here. He promises to launch the biggest domestic deportation campaign. His chief immigration advisor, Stephen Miller, spelled out what it could mean. He would assemble a giant force, including National Guard troops, to seize undocumented migrants. A very conservative estimate would say about 10 million. If unfriendly states like California don't want to cooperate, Trump could order guards units from red states like Texas to cross their borders to enforce the law. Daring and ambitious as building the Panama Canal. Here's what's an interesting headline, though, that I found fascinating. In reference to all this, immigration, this is from Fox. Mexican president says the flow of migrants will continue unless the U.S. meets his demands. We got Hamas. We got our own Hamas on our southern border. Hold on. This is terrorism. He says the flow of migrants will continue, he says, as he puts his hood on and thunder cracks behind him. AMLO, the president of Mexico, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, warned on Sunday during an interview with 60 Minutes. He did it on American media even. No, just shameless. Imagine if Hamas was American media. There's on October 7th, every day hit the southern border. No, I'm just joking. We don't need to go into hyperbole and insane world here to get our point across. AMLO threatens that unless the United States complies with Latin America's requests for aid, the tide of migrants will continue. In January, Obrador issued a series of demands for what the U.S. must do to stop the flow of migrants, including $20 billion in aid a year. That's like shakedown level. What the hell is this? Some level of amnesty, and also granting some level of amnesty to illegal immigrant workers. So, give us $20 billion a year, and also those that are already there and that are going to make their way there, you got to let them in. Here's the funny thing about this, though. Let's be real for a second. This is just mafia shakedown crap. This is, although Mexico could probably help, they could probably do something to help. And by the way, remember when Trump was president, he forced them to help. It was remain in Mexico. Remember, remain in Mexico. He was making them work, and that was major. Biden came in, got rid of remain in Mexico right away. And if you don't know, the significance of that is you got all these asylum seekers, so-called. They apply, they come to America, and they say they're refugees when they're not. If they are, they would have gone to the nearest country that they could have gone to. So they're all coming through. And so they cross the border and they get their court dates and they say, okay, you're an illegal, but okay, fine. You crossed the border. That's a crime, but okay, you're here. Just come back on this court date. They, of course, never do or rarely do. And then they remain in America. So remain in Mexico was pretty significant. Trump was making it happen. So what was I saying? What I was saying is simply this. Mexico, and remain in Mexico is proof of this, can help with this. But let me present to you another fact here. The American government does not want to end illegal immigration. It really doesn't matter. So it really does not matter what Mexico does here. It only mattered with Trump because Trump actually wanted to end illegal immigration. So with someone in power with the required will to make that all happen, remain in Mexico, and Mexico's compliance becomes not only a significant thing, but it became a reality with Trump. And they were going to pay for that wall too, if not already in part. So this is all just theater. The U.S. doesn't even want to end illegal immigration. So his little shakedown of $20 billion is just you're talking to. I wonder what they even think over there. But you're talking to the wrong people. You're trying to shake down the wrong people. You're helping them, AMLO, by letting them through. You're doing exactly what they want. So that's a funny little headline. I thought it was interesting. Mexican shakedown. Yeah, don't worry. American government's doing that to the people already. We don't need your help. I appreciate that, Hake. Thank you. All right, we got calls. Let's rock calls. We got a first-time caller, Miko, out of Santa Monica, California. What's up, Miko? You're on the air.
Hey, can you hear me?
I hear you loud and clear. Thank you.
All right. So I was listening to you with that conversation you had with what was his name? Omar.
Yeah, third rail with Omar.
Right, and I was kind of I started to wonder, like, what is your philosophy? Like, how do you form your worldview or your opinions? I mean, is it based on facts or?
Can you ask me a more specific question? I appreciate, and I want to answer you totally clearly. Whatever, yeah. Because with Omar, right, so, I want to do that with all callers, right? And with Omar, he's got his sides there. But ask me what you want to ask. If you could be more specific, like.
Right. So he was having a lot of trouble with this genocide. Well, I think you were having a little bit of trouble there.
Yes.
Am I getting this correctly that you were kind of denying that there is a genocide taking place, or?
That's the part I don't agree. I'm not denying there's a genocide. I'm just, to say that I may be having trouble calling it one, yeah, I think that's a fair thing to say. But I'm not here saying that it's not a genocide. It's not a full throat, right? So to answer that, no, I'm not saying it's, I'm not denying it's a genocide, no. And I am having trouble calling it one.
Why is there a trouble in calling it a genocide?
Okay, it's mainly out of ignorance. I'm really not up to, I don't know exactly what's going on. And I hear, for example, numbers like 30,000 dead. And when I get someone like Omar calling me saying, Nick, how can you not call the 30,000 murder of women and children a genocide? I get my internal, because you asked me about my worldview as well, my internal spidey senses start going off. They start going off because I just had someone tell me that 30,000 women and children were murdered. And so I have to have some, my senses go off because I start thinking, well, hold on. Who murdered who? Wait, you're telling me Israel? You see when you start examining these statements, you can't answer it as clear as they want me to. So when you say a murder of women and children, it's like, well, who's doing the murdering? And I find it hard to believe that they all meant it. I bet you some didn't mean it. Right. I bet you some were just soldiers. I bet you some thought it was justified because they believe it's what's going to make Israel safe. And when you put it like that, I find it difficult to call it a genocide.
Right.
Am
But,
I making
like,
some sense? Maybe I'm wrong here. Go ahead.
Yes. But I just see like a philosophical kind of like a error here, because
Sure.
like we have like a fact about 30,000 casualties.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you introduce concepts like murder or kill,
Mm-hmm.
those are kind of like categories of the mind. I mean, it can be murder, it can be accidental, but the fact remains that there's 30,000 people dying.
Yes.
And it's kind of like disingenuous, I would say, to kind of impute this naivete onto the Israeli government and say, oh, we didn't mean to kill all of those people. We just had to get rid of Hamas. I mean, when I look at it, there's no way that they didn't know that there was going to be this much collateral damage. And okay, I mean, it's not necessarily a war crime that there's collateral damage in terms of like civilian casualties, but it has to be in proportion. It has to be proportionate. And I would say bombing hospitals full of civilians just because there are, terrorists residing there with airstrikes, it's kind of stretching the,
You know what? If I may
Like-
respond, because of everything you just said, that is the reason why I don't deny that it's a genocide. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right, but when you
And I
don't
know you.
deny it,
And I know it's like, okay, well, it sounds like you may have already. You sounds like you have an answer to that question in your mind, and you maybe want me to have one. But for everything you just said is why I don't deny it, and for the reason I said is why I have trouble with it. And so for me, maybe you guys want to say, hey Nick, maybe you shouldn't be so ignorant on this, but hey, you know what's worse than being ignorant? Making conclusions and making decisions when you don't know. That's worse. So I again, that's why I leave it as an I don't know. I think that's a wiser position for someone for someone like me. I sincerely believe that. Why would I take a position on that?
I mean, right, but I mean, we have the facts.
Well, right, and I don't deny that fact. I don't deny that 30,000 are dead, and that is you can't be. You don't need to go around. There's no mystery there. You don't need to go around saying, well, is that a genocide? Well, they're in war. No, there's 30,000 dead. There's no. Switch it around, man. Switch it around. America is getting attacked a similar way. Don't you think the lines get blurry? That's why I leave it as an I don't know.
Well, you would actually get lost in.
Notice I haven't denied anything you said. I'm just saying that's why I leave it as an I don't know.
Right. But I mean, if you look at the facts and you look at what's happening specifically, like they're not exactly being subtle about what they're doing. I mean, they're raising the entire strip to the ground. You go there, you see what it looks like, and it's basically just ruins.
Yeah.
And Hamas are supposedly
that.
hiding in tunnels. And when you're hiding in tunnels, like the airstrikes, the raising of the entire strip, it kind of doesn't make sense. And it doesn't make sense that they, when they're doing that, they can't really appeal to ignorance and say, oh, we didn't know that we were going to kill this many civilians. Because they know that there's people there. And I mean, okay, they are using this precondition or this excuse that, oh, we told them to leave. We told them to go south because we told them we were going to bomb this area. But I mean, there are hospitals. There are areas where they can't leave. And on top of that kind of fills the criteria of ethnic cleansing. The acts seem like they are genocidal for sure. It's not total genocide because they're not killing everyone. They're letting them leave, but population displacement is ethnic cleansing. And would you say that it is ethnic cleansing in the least?
I don't even know. I don't know. Because I get, again, I'll leave even that one as an I don't know as well. Because they'll say genocide, they say ethnic cleansing. It's like, what do words mean now? Genocide means they're killed, right? They're still Palestinians.
Right.
Yeah, sure, their nation is raised and all that, and they may not get to live in their nation or whatever. But, and I'm not saying that's good or bad. I want all their people to have their own nation, right? But it's not a genocide. It's not a ethnic cleansing. It's a removal of people from an area. And there was
Yes.
and during which there was, a lot of death, and feasibly that death could have even been maybe even a war crime. I don't know, but look, that's how I see things. I'm trying to keep it simple for me in my mind. They call it a genocide. They call it ethnic cleansing. It seems like a removal of people and a razing and a complete razing of a city, and that's what it is. It's what's happening before our eyes. And to people to say otherwise.
Right. I get all that. I get that you kind of want to be impartial.
I'm not even being impartial. I'm just calling it how it is. It's a removal of people.
Right.
And these people are not all dead. You see what I'm saying here? They're still alive. They're not all dead.
But you're just right. So you are kind of admitting that it's ethnic cleansing.
Is a removal of people from an area an ethnic cleansing? Even though you don't kill all of them?
Yes.
Oh, well, then I guess it's an ethnic cleansing. But I'm not going to make that claim. I'm sorry. I'm not going to say, because I'm very careful with that, because I'll say, well, all right, man, then it is an ethnic cleansing. And then someone tomorrow will say, well, Nick said it was an ethnic cleansing, and that means this. And so people are going to say I meant something else.
Right, but I mean...
But whatever. For the conversation, I apologize. Thank you for dealing with me here. For the sake of the conversation, what you just said right there, yeah, fine. We can work it out with words here.
Right, and I mean, what I see as problematic is kind of this saying that I don't know, because I mean, it's good if you don't have the facts, but if you have the facts, if someone's laying out the facts for you and you still say I don't know, that becomes a problem when you have to determine what action to take in response to something that's a problem, because you have to act on the world when the world is being
that's interesting.
A huge problem to your life.
I totally understand where you're coming from, man. And I see what you were asking about worldview and all that a little bit more now. And I just don't see it like that. I personally don't. And I get that facts and all that has their place and all that. But my worldview and all that is closer to kind of what I was describing earlier. When someone speaks in a way that proves that they're shallow, for example, saying 30,000 people were murdered, it shows that you're shallow. Why? Because you're not thinking about what you're saying. And when people speak in that way and my senses inside go off, that's my worldview. I know that's not very clear, but facts, people lie with facts, okay? And some things are way more fundamental. And I think if you focus on those things, I think your life will just go better. And allow me to attempt to make it clear what I'm saying here. Yeah, they got all these facts and all this stuff, and there's 30,000 people, and the reports say this. But there are some more fundamental things you can use to order your life. Like, for example, like keeping things very simple. Like yes means yes, no means no. You'll live a better life if all your yeses were yes and nos were no. If you called something, for example, this might clear something up. You call things that are ethnic cleansing and genocide that when you go down to the fundamental definition, it's just not. A genocide is an eradication of a whole people. There are still Palestinians. Ethnic cleansing is right? Do you see what I'm saying here? I let those things order my life. At least I'm trying to. Fundamental basics like yes means yes. A genocide means that. And I think you'll live a better life like that.
Well, yes. Although it's easier to kind of say that from the comfort of a studio as opposed to actually being there and being ethnically cleansed by genocidal acts, essentially.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's like we're mixing the words here. I don't disagree with the facts. You know, it's a removal of people, that there are 30,000 dead, all those things. We don't have to disagree. We don't have to argue about those things. It's not a mystery. But
okay,
you see what I'm saying about fundamental things, like what words mean?
Right.
I think that's more important to me than a news story.
Right, but I mean, like, the words are kind of just an intermediary between what happens in reality and the action you decide to take. I mean, the words that you use just, like, kind of describe the reality around us. But when you perceive the situation that's happening in Gaza, then you kind of have to, you don't need to, but you should, form an opinion of is it wrong? Is it right? What should we do about it? Things like that. And I've kind of, it's not clear to me what your position is.
Would you like to ask me a clear question I can clear up?
Like, is it wrong what Israel is doing?
I don't know.
So you're basically refusing to engage with the entire
No, I'm really not. If you were watching my show, I'm looking at the news, I'm taking the calls, I'm really doing my best here. But maybe what you're not used to is someone who leaves things as I don't know. You know, there's a lot that we don't know, and maybe you're just not used to speaking with someone who's okay with that.
Right.
But do you see what
really
is there
not,
something you want?
I mean,
Is there something you want me to clear up, or is there something you wish I did different? And also, for the sake of time as well, if you have a question for me, or what do you want me to do different in your opinion? Go ahead.
Like I understand the philosophy of, like, not letting the world kind of take your mind whatever it seems to be. But I just think that most of the world just looks at the situation and immediately knows that Israel shouldn't be doing this in this specific way. I mean, what I do is I know where they're coming from, but then I understand where the Palestinians are coming from, and the airstrikes aren't justified. I mean,
and your litmus test is the world.
Yes.
Understood. Very interesting, Miko. I really appreciate this conversation, man. I don't want to leave unceremoniously. One last question for me, or anything we can do? Last thing, so we can move on here.
I'm just really interested in the Palestine, Israel.
No, you can call me again about it, please. And if you have a question, I'll try and clear it up. But yeah, I'm sincere when I'm saying this. I'll leave things like that as an I don't know. And personally, I'll leave this, you know, something you can smoke on. You're calling things, you know, you're calling, you know, you bring up the philosophy of this, of the philosophy behind making these decisions and thoughts. Wouldn't you be able to flip that on yourself as well? Because here you are, you're taking on what everybody else is saying about this.
Yes. I mean, well, my view on it is kind of nuanced. You know, I think the reason why is what.
Well, wait, hold on, but it's not, because you called it a genocide. You called it ethnic cleansing. But then when we examine it, you don't quite meet that.
What do you mean?
You mean the movement of people and the collateral damage and possible war crimes of the Palestinians. You don't actually mean genocide or ethnic cleansing. You mean the removal of people, the razing of a city, and
You mean we don't need to use those terms?
Well, I just want to understand. Well, we don't need to do it rehash here. But yeah, like I said, it doesn't seem like a genocide. It seems like something else.
Well,
like a removal of people and a razing of a city and a killing of 30,000 people.
Right. But what it seems like is wrong. What's happening?
Oh yeah, and that could be as well. Yeah, if you want to make a moral thing on it, I'm not sure on that either, personally.
And I mean, like, you know, also when obviously this is fallacious. This is a fallacious thing to say, but when you look at, like, the left wing and the right wing in the population, like it seems to be universal, near universal condemnation of what Israel is doing. I mean, like
that doesn't bear too much on. I pay attention to what the crowd says, but it doesn't bear too much on me on what is right.
Right. It doesn't.
In fact, it bears very little
on
that.
Mm-hmm. Right, but I mean, like
usually what the crowd supports is evil. If anything, the crowd supporting something should make you why aren't your internal bells going off that the whole world is supporting? Look, I'll say this. I bet you there are things to criticize Israel about. But all these people who are all mad at Israel and getting all up in arms about it, they don't care about the facts. They're not like actual people who really thought this through. They're just brainwashed people.
People do seem to, they don't have all the facts. I think what is more concerning is this getting lost in this, but it's Hamas versus Israel, not Palestinians versus Israel. Well, if Israel wanted to target Hamas, they wouldn't really do airstrikes. They would kind of, do a ground warfare kind of approach. But it seems like Israelis don't want to really lose any casualties versus Hamas. And it just doesn't seem like the entire approach doesn't seem to make sense. I mean, you want to minimize civilian casualties, but this is just like very, very, what would be the term to describe it? Not subtle, what Israel
Miko,
is doing.
May I? Would you say, Miko, would you say that maybe is a little easy for you to say from Santa Monica?
Well, I mean, if the same thing was happening here...
Do you know what I mean? It's a little easy for you to say you're not there and you didn't get attacked, and it's a little easy for you to say that from Santa Monica, no?
Right, but it's kind of easy for you to say that.
Fair enough. Man, Miko, will you... That's totally fair. Miko, will you call me again on this?
I probably will, but...
Right on, sir.
I'll try.
Or call me about anything you like, man. I appreciate you watching and calling.
Yeah, I'm really interested in the Israel-Palestine conflict in particular. But I mean, I've been watching the show, like the JLP show, for years, and I like the approach that you take. But I feel like sometimes there's kind of these, these gaps there.
I think so too, man, and that's why I appreciate your call. I'll welcome any more education and all that. Appreciate that. I'll stay honest though, and just respond the way I do, sincerely. Miko, call me again.
All right, man. Thanks.
888-775-3773. Amazing calls to Credible. The heck am I talking about here? Why don't we just keep doing calls? We talk about AMLO. I wanted to tell you about what they're putting in your water. But I'll leave that for tomorrow. I think it'll be funny. I think you'll enjoy this. Or maybe you won't. Either way, we're going to like it. Brian. I got Brian, North Carolina. Sir, you're on the air.
Thanks, Nick. How are you?
All is well. Thank you for that.
Nice. Thank you. That was a interesting call right there.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was a good call, though. I was paying attention, though. I noticed how nowadays we call things everything but what it is. You know how he was like using the term like ethnic cleansing, and I don't even know what that means, but just on the face of it, it sounds like something that's good. But
right. It's like finally someone got to clean them up.
Right, exactly.
From the inside, you two. We're talking about the inside.
Right. You got to be clear. I'm not really too clear on what you're allowed to say or not allowed to say, by the way, either. I just wanted to let you know that. But
yeah, well, just speak clearly. You're not someone who's rabidly trying to, ever calling for the death of people or anything like that. But just don't say things that are things that you can't verify and things that you can't, that would be calling for, violence and things like that.
Okay, right on. That's 100% got that.
Thank you.
But But then he said ethnic cleansing by way of genocide. And it just made me wonder. I was like, that would be like me being against the killing of the child in the womb, but then referring to it as womb rejuvenation by way of abortion.
Huh. Right. Is it fair to say goose for the gander kind of moment here?
Yeah, I guess it would say that. But I wanted to tie it in with the interviews that you were showing with Trump, and he was advising Israel, what they should do and how they've got to handle what they got in front of them to handle and get rid of it, and how he may have handled it a little differently.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I see what you're trying to say, because I see that in Trump that I admire. Is just like there's no gray area between what's right and what's wrong. And that little small clip you just played just 100% made it clear how he has, to me, it looks like he has no ego, because he's simply pointing out, you guys are in this situation, so you got to do what you got to do. But at the same time, you don't need to be angry about it, is what I got from him saying that.
Big time.
And I just wanted to point out, I admire him a lot for that too. So I
think about the wisdom behind
I see what
that.
you're trying to say.
Think about the wisdom behind that, because people who are, there's all these, there's people even in American government, like Chuck Schumer, they're all like, yeah, this is horrible what happened. Israel's got to do what they got to do. But then you get a little, you get radicals on your own side yelling AOC, and now all of a sudden you're like, oh, I don't know, Bibi's kind of whatever. When you got to understand, that would be so much worse. That would be even more evil. It's like going halfway like that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it is worse. I'm just saying that you could see how it could be worse, if you weren't to deal with an enemy fully, you open the door for more evil.
Yeah, and I think what you're referring to, he called it universal condemnation.
Something like that.
I think that's something like that, right? But that's just That's just everybody's ego. Yeah. That's all that is. And you know what? You're always going to have that. And that's why, another reason why I love Trump. We've watched him go through that, and he's not even talking about it.
Yeah. Big time.
But that's what I noticed. I wanted to point out, and as far as I can see, and like yourself, I pretty much unintentionally keep space between this because I really don't pay too much attention to it. But just on the face of it, if I was, just like you said, if I was attacked, I'm, whatever comes after that, be what it may, it is what it is. But I wouldn't be egotistical about it. I can't find another word. And that's the only, as of right now, that's the only thing I see Israel really doing wrong, is like them,
that is totally fair.
Propagandizing this war and feeding it to people who really don't need to know nothing about it. They just need to know that it's being taken care of.
That is a fair point, I think, man. And I'll say this only out of pure opinion because it's anecdotal, but I think I've even seen some of that myself personally. Well, I'm not, whether they were civilian or otherwise, but the ego of the Jewish Israeli side in this whole thing, and gloating or even reveling in some sort of, nobody wins in war, and so yeah, totally.
A mess, but that's all I got, Nick.
Appreciate that, Brian. Call me again, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Oops, my bad. Goodbye. My apologies. We got callers though, and I do appreciate it. 888-775-3773. We might take calls all the way to the end. Mr. Pink, California, you're on the air. Thank you.
What's good, Nick?
Thank you, sir.
Hey, just a little observation after hearing all of everybody's opinions on this or that.
Thank you.
Today's show is a prime example of why it is really one of the things I've taken to heart about what Jesse says all the time about not taking sides.
Thank you.
All that does is get you stirred up into your opinion, your emotions, your thoughts. And when we taking sides, immediately that leads us off the straight and narrow every single time. Am I wrong?
I don't think you're wrong, man.
Because, I mean, like, I appreciate your perspective about this whole thing. We're not there. It's not affecting our day-to-day, honestly. And, you know, and it's all, like, hypotheticals. Like, what would you do if this happened to you? Yeah. And labeling it, you know, it's a genocide or it's a ethnic cleansing or all these labels. People use those definitions or those words to get you to take a side one way or another. It's just always what it is. It's like people say, oh, it's a genocide. Well, you know, in your heart, in your mind, immediately you're like, well, I don't support that, so it must be I'm against Israel, right? But you don't want to go down either of those roads, you know, especially if it's not happening to you, if it's not affecting your day to day. That's the same as listening to thoughts going, oh, this decision you made is bad, or this decision you made is good. It gets you on that roller coaster of thrills, like Jesse talks about. That's dumb. And it's not a way to think about things. It takes things out of perspective. It gets you thinking about things you never would have thought about. And, you know.
I understand what you're saying, man. I mean, honestly, I just see it as it's just an internal thing. It's just an internal check is all I see it as. Because there are things happening. It's not to say that there aren't conclusions or answers to what's going on or that, you know what I mean? There are answers to this, okay? That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying it's this internal check we can have when we start saying
overreact.
Right. Well, specifically, it's when we start maybe even misusing language, and not noticing that we are maybe, for example, calling all these people murderers that you might not know. I'm just saying. I'm just putting that out there as an internal check. That's not to say that there isn't things going on. There are people who there are agendas. There are things going on. I'm sure. I'm just saying.
Right. So, like, let's back this up historically a little bit. Back this up historically a little bit to, say, 1930s, 40s Germany, when people in the country of Germany, they respected their leader. A lot of them signed up for the military because he said he was going to help their economy, and we needed to get these certain people that are ruining our economy out. Blah blah blah. Right. And then some of those people were in the military, and then that party got labeled Nazi. And then, they were killing a lot of people because of their national ideology and their respect for their leader and all this. But did that mean that every single person that was in the military following orders was a murderer or doing, like, some horrific evil thing? Not necessarily, right? You know, you want to, of course, like, they've labeled that, you know, Nazis all evil, you know, and they get this whole, like, stirred up thing. It's the same thing. You can dial that into what happened on 9/11. You know, 3,000 people die in New York because of planes flew into the thing. And then we went and, like, blew up all of Iraq almost and all of Afghanistan almost. Does that mean that everybody in our military was committing a genocide and were all murderers and all this stuff? No. It means they were following orders. It means that they were, you know, I think 90% of the country at that time was, like, wrapped up in, we got to respond to this. And, you know, are all those people at fault that supported going into those countries at the time before they had facts?
No.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. I think an honest person would say that.
Yeah. I mean, like, I remember, like, after 9/11, everybody was all up in arms and was tripping out. And, I mean, I guarantee that the people, like, the populace in Israel that's not in the military, they're all for what's going on right now because they got attacked in October or whatever.
Well, even that's not necessarily true because there's even internal, you know, I heard about, like, I had someone who was here visiting from Israel, and I got to ask him directly, and he said, no, there's liberals, so to speak, over there in Israel who think, hey, you know what? How Israel treats the Palestinians is just wrong. It's too far, etc.
Right,
and
sure.
So, yeah.
And so to overlabel things, to go one way on a side versus the other way, there's no middle ground. Like, there's no I don't know. Like, there's no wait and see attitude. That's the dumb way to live. It really just gets you wrapped up in what you think is right. So even if you're getting your information from some side or another, It's all it does is get you taking sides within yourself about what you think is right and wrong.
Nice. That's something. That's just a fair thing to say, man. It's just if you don't know, you don't know. Admit it. It's fine to do that.
Right? Yeah. That's what I respect about what you're
Thank you.
What you've been saying today. Like it's like Omar was getting all mad at you because you wouldn't take his side.
Yeah.
The caller before Brian a minute ago. He went on and on because you wouldn't see his perspective.
Hey, I'll admit it. I've got a lot of ignorance. I appreciate the calls though, and I'll just try and answer honestly. Look, I wanted to say, what were you saying? I appreciate that, Mr. Pink. Here's what's crazy about what you're saying. You start doing that. You start saying you know when you don't know. You are actually following a pretty dark road. Careful with that. It's Satan's road. Mr. Pink, appreciate your call,
sir.
Get
you off the straight and narrow. Appreciate you.
Call me again, man.
Yeah, got you.
Yeah. You're following the mind. That's a nasty thing to follow. You're following the mind unto where it's taking you. Yeah, of course I know. I think I know. Okay, I'll leave you with this. Okay, I'll leave you with this in the last few minutes here. What are you going to do with your bodies? I know some of y'all are living forever. They say you're supposed to have a plan. What do you do with your body? They got chapels. They have services. Memorial services. Do you want a gravestone? Cremation services. Some don't want that. Some say they don't like all that burning. What if you need your body? What do you do if you need your body? Hold up. You're telling me that you let them burn your body? Now why'd you go and let them do that? Some say different things, right? What will you do? Your dying wishes, what will you do? Have you ever heard of aquamation? You know what aquamation is? Maybe you don't like that fiery end. It's just painful and fiery. I heard it once said, you mean you're telling me your loved ones, they see you in hell your whole life, and then they throw you in fire after you die, so it's even more hell? So some might not be into all the fire. It's just so much fire, and they wanted to go down a different way. Aquamation might be for you. Aquamation, okay? They're doing it. It's trendy. It's eco-friendly. The process of aquamation, also referred to as alkaline or alkaline hydrolysis, uses an alkaline water solution to slowly and gently break down the body into a powder-like substance similar to cremated ashes, depending on the heat of the water, which is between 200 and 300 degrees. So you just gently dissolve and maybe boil a little bit. But it's a little aquamation for those who want a little different flavor. Okay, is aquamation available for humans? Asks this website. Yes, it is. It's affordable, it's gentle, and it's better for the environment. No fossil fuels are burned during this. It's incredible. You know what else? You know what else is amazing about aquamation? And I'll leave you with this. I know it's not Halloween. But just so you know, this is alkaline hydrolysis. This is from the BetterPlaceForest.com website, where I'm getting educated about aquamation. Alkaline hydrolysis, also known as aquamation, leaves behind only fragments as well as sterile liquid solutions. And it is clean to be reintroduced into our water supply. Right on. Bill's got a thumbs up here. Aquamation is safe to drink. Okay, it can be reintroduced into our drinking water supply. Just a little bit of facts and information for those that like facts and information. Folks, call me tomorrow. Let me check the super chats and make sure I check here before we leave. Make sure I didn't miss anything, because I think I may have had a whole bunch of super chats and I missed it. Nope, I was wrong about that. I have one. Lin Yan Chin, thank you, sir. Will you condense the sparkles of life through blouse of fate? Take my tithe to power your divine sparkle blouse. Thank you for your support, Lin Yan Chin. Always supportive there. That's all the coffees and all the super chats for now. Join me tomorrow for more American Anchor Baby at noon. Manhood Hour. Joel. The Hake Report, then Joel, and then I'll be back, folks. All right, y'all. Peace. Take care.